as time flies by, you'll open up your eyes wide. You feel it's gonna go your way. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. Hey, 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 it's a brand new day.
Welcome back to Marbella now. My name is Nicole King. Well, this is Darling. I probably should introduce her. She's on the program so often. We have a fabulous lineup of really different guests this week, giving you an insight into the colourful people that make up our fabulous city. Stay tuned.
Let the music get to your heart. Let it set you on your way. No time to hesitate. We are all the same. So much trouble tearing us apart. Poison arrows shoot straight to your heart. We can change if we try. Just believe it's worth your time.
Last week, I was so honoured to be invited to talk at the luncheon for MDI, which is a great business networking group that was started in 1982. So the pioneers of hashtag Better Together here in Marbella. And this lovely young lady, Sandy, was sitting opposite me at lunch, and I finally had a chance to say more than just a wave and a hello as we cross our paths as we have done over the last few years. So Sandy, it was lovely to actually meet you.
Yes.
That was a pleasure.
And it was a pleasure to meet you as well.
I can't wait to find out more about you. You sound like you've had a very exciting life in Marbella. How long have you actually been here?
Well, I came in the 80s for a couple of years and then went on to work in Geneva. Changed my whole life around and then lived in Paris and eventually ended up in New York. Got married, had a child there, or not there, back in London. But then I've slowly, after coming back to England for many years, or London, I decided to come down here about 10 years ago.
Can I ask what you were doing, all those travelling around? What was your profession that took you to those wonderful cities?
I started out as a commercial artist, graphic designer, photographer, but I became a junior Miss Rhodesia because I grew up in Rhodesia, and at the age of 15, 16. And so the modelling took over, and when I went to London I was mostly with fashion and modelling, television, for many years, and carried on with that, which is more lucrative than sitting over a desk, slaving away.
And a lot more fun.
And
but
more
I imagine
fun.
more demanding than we would think, no, being a fashion model.
Well, it's hard work, because when you're standing for 12, 15 hours on the shows like in Paris, London, Milan, it is very grueling. And then you've got to be up very early, made up, and then at night time you're always out with all the clients and everything. So yes, it's quite demanding.
This week on our show we've got a young lady who's a budding actress, and she's also starting off in the modelling profession. What advice would you give to someone? What are the things that they should look out for? What are the tips that you could share with someone starting in such a competitive and demanding career?
Well, it's a bit like a cattle market, because you've got to build up a nice portfolio, and you have to go to all these castings, and if you're lucky you get the job.
How does it feel? How does one deal with being told no? We're always hearing that the best people and the most successful people at first failed. How does one deal with that? Because you're selling yourself, basically, not a product. They're saying yes or no to you.
I suppose it was like I put up with a buffer. It didn't really bother me. You either got it or you didn't. You know, I mean, I didn't have any casting couch experiences, although almost one. I won't mention any names because it's too famous. So I only encountered that once, and in fact the person said to me, "Have you got a boyfriend?" Which I did, who's very famous now, he said, "I suggest you're too good for this business, go home to your boyfriend," which I did, and I laughed and walked out. And that person was actually Ken Todd, who's married to Hollywood housewives Lisa Vanderpump. So I was with him for many years in London.
I had no idea. Oh my God, how exciting! I remember him.
Yeah, Ken Todd.
And his did he mean? No, I wasn't Ken Todd.
No, Todd.
Oh, Ken Todd.
No, he was in the rag trade in Kensington. So I kind of grew up in London, in Kensington, Chelsea, all those areas, and mostly West End fashion people, which I'm still very much in contact. And we have a reunion in London every year, which is marvellous. One of my friends owns the Marigot Hotel in St Lucia, who has just decided now he wants to spend some more time, so he's bought a lovely flat in West Sussex, and he owned Che Guevara in Kensington originally.
So, I mean, you really are a who's who of where's where and what's what.
Yes, I would say that, yes.
So now back in Marbella, do they come and visit you, or do you always go and...
Usually I see them in London, but a few of them do come out here, sometimes in a group, and they stay a bit further down the coast, and I go to see them.
What did your family think about your acting career as a choice,
Well,
and your modelling,
my
modelling
mother
career?
and sister kind of pushed me to it, because they knew I would
I mean, with a face like that, I mean, how can you
thank
not?
you.
It's like certain things just lend themselves.
But when I was younger, it was a lot better. Obviously, I mean, it was really easy to do for me, yes. And I got on very well with it in England, and I spent a lot of time in Ibiza as well with this man, Ken Todd, who's famous in Los Angeles. They've got restaurants now as well, and but he no longer is really part of our, say, Kensington group that we were. But I've just been with a group of them this weekend who came out here, and so we had a lovely time, lunch on the beach, and
but it's lovely that you maintain that relationship, and that you still have all those memories to share together, and making new ones, which is the most exciting. With the MBI group, it's lovely to see, again, very much a group. I'm not going to say a clique, but very much you can see that you're all very much in tune with each other, very supportive, and that you've been through a lot together.
Yes,
that
I've been with them about 8 years, I think, and Paul Young, who was sitting sort of opposite you, he's been one of my longest term friends here for about 19 years since I've been coming out, and he was as is Campbell Ferguson, he's in the surveying property business, and Paul Young built a lot of properties here, and I think he even worked to sign. He's one of the people who can sign off. For example, the Gibraltar, the Ocean Village had to be signed off because of I believe something to do with the foundations. I'm not really into.
But that was one of the impressive things, that people who are groups, and again, it's emblematic of the Marbella then, that was much smaller, much closer knit, but the type of people that belonged to the club was absolutely fascinating, in the sense we could do program after program of speaking to people like yourself with such interesting, colourful stories.
Well, most of them are vetted because of their business acumen, and that's why I was brought in initially to do the Conferi de Sabrador, which is sabering the champagne bottles off. I came in first to do one of those, but then they realised that I had a history as a trader and various things like that. So I was, working, as I said, I went to Geneva to work as a gold trader at that stage, and changed my whole profession. And then I carried on with that, and I went to live in West Africa with my ex-husband, and diamond trading, gold, diamonds. He's still in that.
I mean, that's another world unto itself.
Yes, we're going around West Africa.
Did you see horrors? Or what
No,
was it like when you actually
It was before
go?
the Blood War. But, I mean, there's always some... I never really saw anything horrific in Africa, even growing up in Zimbabwe, as it's called now, because I left quite soon. And it was a wonderful, charming life to grow up there, beautiful country. And then I just wanted to be in Europe. America didn't really turn me on, I have to say. I mean, New York is wonderful, but I don't know about being married in New York. It just wasn't me, America. But although I've got still some friends there, I have no desire to go back.
Where are you from originally?
I was born in South Africa, but
So that's where you started off, and I
well,
wasn't sure if you moved there when you were young.
My family went up because my father was an engineer, raising productions of gold mining. So
I mean, you've always had this very interesting life. I mean, you had a very different start than most people.
Yes, very different.
We were chatting before, and you were saying we were here in the beautiful harbour restaurant in the Marbella
Yes.
harbour, and you were saying that you actually have your own little boat, but down in the fishing port of Marbella.
Well, it's not little, it's 50 foot, Super America, Riva. So that is in the next port down.
When did that passion start for the sailing and for the water?
I had a speedboat in Ibiza, so I was also very into water skiing and trick skis and all that stuff. So the 70s for me, Ibiza was the place, really. And I had an apartment there many years, and I spent most of my time when I wasn't working there or traveling to India with the fashion group, and Hong Kong, where a lot of the fashion industry makes their clothing and then brings it back to the shows. So I was always traveling there, and I'd try to go back and see my family every year.
Gosh, you don't stop, huh?
No, I never stopped. I was always all over the place, and then I eventually started to. Well, I started living back in London in '98, I think it was. Because I wanted my daughter to go to school there, and I split with my husband, of course, but that was inevitable. And I was going out a lot on boats on the River Thames, and then I started my own luxury charter boat company called Chelsea Charters. Of course, as I was living in Chelsea Harbour, and I took it over from a guy who still worked for me, but we owned about 4 boats, and then slowly they petered out. And I came out here to bring my daughter to a small school to try and finish her education, and I felt like a change, but I was going to go back for all the big jobs, and unfortunately he just buried it into the ground and moved here, which was the worst nightmare of my life. And I eventually got rid of him, but I missed the business, although it was very hard work, because there was also a lot of catering on the river. And so whether you're the director, you're still sometimes front of house, running around in the kitchen, here, there, doing everything. But it was marvellous. And then I brought the boat out here. And
how are you adapting to being maybe a little quieter in your day-to-day than in the old days? You enjoying the rest, or do you keep yourself really busy?
Well, I still am quite busy. I still go out quite a lot here to various parties and openings and all that stuff, but I don't do as much in the day, because but I still do trading. So I carry on with that.
You just never know who you're sitting next to in Marbella. You can't say it enough. Sandy, it's been lovely to have just a quick chat, a little bit of an insight into your history, and that is the calibre of the people who make up our most amazing cosmopolitan city.
It is.
It was really, really a pleasure to chat with you, and I look forward to seeing you around now and actually saying I know you.
Yes, absolutely. Lovely to talk to you.
You too, Sandy.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Hey, hey.
Thank you for joining us for this evening's Marbella Now. If you would like to watch it again, it will be on tomorrow afternoon here on RTV Marbella. You can also check out the recordings of Marbella Now, our radio show Me Marbella on 107.6 FM, and my column in the Euro Weekly from our website, marbellanowtv.com. Well, that's it for me for this evening. Take care of yourselves. Be nice to each other. We'll see you again tomorrow.
It's a brand new day.